So I have a DJI Phantom, and it has zone restriction that so that way they don't get in trouble as a company with like the FAA. And there is an airport near the studio, and so I send the drone up, and it takes a few beats before it gets GPS lock. And so I send it about 35, 40, 50 feet up in the air, and by the time it gets to about 60 feet in the air, it has very clear GPS signal, and it realizes that it's in a region lock zone, and it forces the drone down on me. And there's really no way to get through it until I just let it get GPS lock. And the other day, it almost came down in traffic, and I'm sitting there trying to abort the landing. There's a car coming, and I was able to hold it up for a few seconds, got the car to pass like 3 feet from the car's roof. And then as the car passed, it landed. Then I just have to just agree to be safe, and then I can send the drone back up again. But of course, you then have to have your device that's connected to the controller. It has to be on some sort of data connection so it can ping the servers that you've been authorized, that you've agreed to the terms of use. And I had my phone in airplane mode because, like always, whenever I'm doing something, I'm getting a ton of messages coming into my phone, and I didn't want them coming in over the UI of the drone. So I turned my phone into airplane mode. So I can't authorize it because part of the authorization process is receiving a text message. So there I am in the middle of the road trying to get my phone out of airplane mode, trying to get a text message, authorizing this drone so I can send it back up in the air out of the road. It's
oh God, isn't that annoying? Is there a way on iOS to get rid of the drop-down notifications so they don't overlay on top of things
what I realized what I should be doing later, and I was just being dumb, is put it in Do Not Disturb mode.
No, but even if you have the Do Not Disturb thing on like the Switch or whatever, it doesn't actually do anything for the on-screen notification.
Oh, really? Well, now I'm screwed.
I always have mine in Do Not Disturb mode, always.
Good man. I have a solution though. You know what I should do? This is the long-term solution here is get a drone that doesn't have this control software on it. Because, come on. I mean, this is the problem, is that there's somebody else that's controlling what my drone can do. If Richard Stallman was here, he'd be shaking his head at me. He'd be very disappointed.
It's no good.
No good. So look at this project. It's a drone built with a Raspberry Pi that's capable of streaming live to YouTube. Now, this is more my speed. It's a quadcopter. And it goes right, the Raspberry Pi goes right on the top of it. And it works. It's legit. The camera could use a gimbal, that's for sure. I mean, it's a work in progress. and then they're live streaming. There's no real official control software. But they've put a LG LTE card in it, a SIM card. It's got Wi-Fi antenna. It's got the camera for the Raspberry Pi Kit camera. It's kind of ingenious. So maybe future vlogs will be powered by a Raspberry Pi drone. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 181 for January 24th, 2017. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show with a host that's flying solo this week. Well, that's never really true. My name is Chris, and it can't really be true when I got a packed virtual lug this week. Coming up, we're going to talk about some big news that's breaking right now as we go on the air that could affect the Unix landscape overall. We'll talk about Scale 15X and UbuCon. There's some really big project updates we're going to get to this week, including those sly foxes over at Solus adopting flatpak. What? Yeah, that's what I said when I literally did a what when I saw the headline come across my screen. Then a certain insider in the Ubuntu Mate project is going to leak some of the upcoming details and fanciness that'll be rolling out. And then Kali Linux. Yeah, Kali Linux. They're taking it up a notch. You know they've been around for 10 years now? 10 years. Kind of makes me feel old, to be honest with you. I think I've been using it for 10 years. Anyways, they have some big news on their 10th anniversary that I'll tell you guys about. And then we'll touch a little bit on a future install, a future rig build, get some input from our mumble room, read some feedback, and all of that goodness. There's a lot to cover in today's show. Mr. Wes couldn't make it this week. He sends his apologies. He wanted to be here, but there was I'll just put it as this. There was work circumstances that came up. You guys know how this industry goes. Sometimes things just come up and you can't get away for the afternoon to podcast. So we miss you, Wes, and you're here in spirit. Well, I'll channel you from time to time, Wes. But Never fear. We have a great team in our virtual lug. Time-appropriate greetings, Mumble Room.
Greetings, Hello.
Ubuntu
Hello.
podcast.
It's not even on the air right now, and you're plugging.
That doesn't matter, you know. There's back episodes people can listen to.
A great back catalog, yeah. And then, but you know what's going to happen?
I'll be fair. Late night Linux.
There you go. You know what's going to happen is they're going to listen to that back catalog and they're all going to say, I miss Laura. So I don't really know.
Yeah, this is true. It's a common message that we hear.
Yeah, speaking of late night Linux, Mr. Ike is here. Hello, Ike. It's good to have you here.
Hey.
And also returning to the show in, I don't know how, I think it's almost been a year, Mr. Michael Hall. Hello, Mr. Hall.
Hello, good to be back.
Well, I am looking forward to talking to all of you. Of course, we all have a whole cast of regulars in there, too. And so even though Wes isn't here, we have a great crew, and everybody will be jumping in as we go along. But I don't like doing the bad news stuff if we can avoid it. So let's do like a quick breaking news kind of thing.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Yeah, this is Linux Unplugged breaking news. And it's unfortunate when this kind of story comes out, but we kind of had a little bit of a sniff of this story earlier. Oracle is laying off more than 1,000 employees. According to Mercury News, Oracle is laying off approximately 450 employees in its Santa Clara hardware systems division. Now, that matters because that's the division that was responsible for Spark hardware, which it appears to be where the majority of these layoffs are coming from. It looks like cloud is what Oracle cares about now because software licensing, Solaris and whatnot, the revenue from that plummeted by 20% last quarter, and at the same time, Oracle's hardware revenue also fell 13%. So there's just starting to essentially probably realign the business with where they're actually making revenue from. But it's kind of sad because I think it's probably at least going to signal a massive slowing down for Solaris. At least that's my read of this story, and that's kind of why I thought it was worth covering today, is because that overall affects the Unix ecosystem. I mean, the entirety, it looks like it's going to be about 1,800 employees company-wide that will be pink-slipped.
There was already a story about this on the software side, right? Like they were already talking about how they're canning the new major version of Solaris.
It was rumor at that point. So that's kind of...
I think more recently, though, not only was there the rumor that was like 2 or 3 months ago, but there was a newer story to back that up.
Oh,
too.
Yeah, I was talking about the rumor we covered previously, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there were 2 stories on the same thing.
Yeah, and this is...
later.
Yeah, this has sort of been... There's been smoke signals really since... Also, pretty strong smoke signals since December.
It's not surprising because, like, as someone who worked with Solaris boxes at one point and saw the transition to Red Hat and x86, I'm not surprised they're going to have to close up.
Yeah.
Especially since everyone wants more open infrastructure and they're offering the most closed proprietary infrastructure possible. It's just becoming more of a commodity now where you need open infrastructure, so this is just not appealing.
Yeah.
When I worked at Sun Microsystems, we used to say Solaris for a pro, Linux for show.
Yeah, I've heard that saying before.
And that's changing more and more now.
Well, yeah, I mean... Linux
especially with the lack of dedicated resources,
now.
right? Like, I'm sure there are more dedicated resources in the Linux community now than there are in the Solaris community.
Oh, for sure.
Call it a community. It's not really a community.
And businesses and software services around Linux and, you know, all of that. When you go to a trade show, you see all of these middleware businesses that are selling Linux-based solutions, and none of them are selling anything that runs on Solaris. So what I'm getting at there is the workloads were becoming more and more specific for Solaris stations too.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about something that I'm looking forward to. March 2nd through the 5th, coming up at Pasadena Convention Center, is Scale 15X, the 15th annual Southern California Linux Expo. We went last year. I think we've gone a few years past. And I'll probably be going this year, too. I'm going to decide after today's show. That's my plan. And just like I believe last year, too, there will be an UbuCon summit to take place March 2nd through the 3rd, so sort of tucked up right next to Scale. And it looks like it's going to take place also in Pasadena, so you just go to this location and you can attend both events, essentially. Am I getting it right, Mr. Hull?
Yes, actually, we're going to be using 2 of the Scale conference rooms for those 2 days.
Brilliant. I think this is such a good way to do it.
Oh, yeah. We've got several UbuCons that happen all over the world. Some of them are standalone. Some of them co-host with another big conference like Scale. And it really helps the logistics to be able to do that.
So what do I kind of expect if I'm going to go to UbuCon? Is it something that an Ubuntu desktop user would be interested in? Is it something for developers, administrators? Who's the target and what should I expect?
It's a little bit of both. Last year we had 2 tracks, one for users and the other one targeting developers. And we're going to do something similar again this year with a little bit more workshop kind of sessions on the second day than we had last year. And then in the morning of both days, we've got keynotes and presentations going on that are generally relevant to anybody.
Well, see, this feels like if I'm going to go to Scale, I should plan to be down there a few days earlier, so that way I could be there for at least get down there by the 3rd, but maybe even the 2nd. I like that.
Yeah,
and so, what is your overall goal? Is it to inform community? Is it to get more Ubuntu users? What is the sort of strategy, and why is Canonical willing to spend the resources on it?
Well, UbuCons are held by the community. So the UbuCon Summit is being organized by the California community. Yeah. We are helping them with logistics, and we help as much as we can financially also.
Michael, I think it kind of feels like a little bit. Yeah, oh, for sure. I think it kind of feels like an official Canonical event because last year, a pretty big Canonical crew was there, including Mark Shuttleworth. So it feels like it's a big Ubuntu official event and a big official Canonical event in some sense. But I forget that it's really community driven itself.
Yeah, last year was kind of an oddball out because usually there's not that many people from Canonical being flown into UbuCons.
What is the rumor on Shuttleworth making it to UbuCon this year?
I don't think he's going to because it actually overlaps a little bit with Mobile World Conference happening in Spain. Oh,
wow, yeah.
And we always have a big presence there, and he's at that. So
yeah.
I'm not sure if he's going to get over. I think he might try and get to Scale, but I don't think he's going to make it for UbuCon.
You know who I'd be going to see would be Martin, Mr. Wimpy down there. But Wimpy, you're not going to make it this year either, are you?
I don't think so, no.
It's okay, Wimpy. It's all right. I was just gonna buy you.
I'm still eyeing Linux Fest Northwest though.
I think I owe you like a dozen beers, so I'll make sure I'll get them taken care of at Linux Fest. That's even better.
Feelings mutual, so that's going to be a fun night.
Oh boy. Well, you know what? I think this year I'm going to park at Linux Fest in the parking lot. So if we get too irresponsible, we won't have to go very far because we'll just walk back to the. Well, Michael, I think I'm going to try to make it down there. I'm not sure what my whole approach is going to be this year, but I think I'll try to make it down to UbuCon. So how do I sign up? Do I need to pre-register? Can you give me those details?
So we're still working that out. I think we're going to use Eventbrite for the UbuCon registration itself. We just put out a call for papers for the presentations that happen those 2 mornings, and those are actually going through the Scale CFP system. Even though Scale's not taking talk proposals anymore, they still have it open so that people can submit them for UbuCon. You just use the UbuCon tag, and they'll send all of those lists over to Nathan Haynes and Richard Gaskin, who are the California team organizing all of this.
The one thing I think I had some confusion on last year from the audience was I think some people thought you sign up for only one, or do you have to sign up for one and then sign up for the other? Sign up, you don't get both, right? You have to go, you register for Scale and then you register for UbuCon. Is that how the format's going to work?
Yeah, so UbuCons traditionally have been free to come and participate in. You haven't had to register. You don't have to pay anything to get in. And what we've worked out with the Scale guys is that people can come into UbuCon without paying to get into Scale. But we really encourage people to register to be at Scale and to go to all the Scale talks in the conference or the expo floor and everything because, it's a huge conference. It's totally worth going to. If you're going to be there already for UbuCon anyway, just pay the little bit extra, get into Scale also.
Yeah, I second that for sure. Absolutely. Even if you just walk the floor for a few minutes and, say hi to a few people. Well, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. And compared to other huge shows, it's not expensive to get into Scale at all.
What does it cost? Is it free or is it? It's not much.
No, I want to say it was like $45 or something last year.
Oh, is it? See, I always go in as media, so I've never had to pay for it because they let media in for free. But I think it's so reasonable that whatever it is, that it
basically depends. If you just want to go for the expo floor, it's kind of cheap. It's like $20. But if you want, I think the talks and things, it's almost $100. It's like $80.
Yeah, and the reason why that kind of makes sense to me is because the talks are going to be more focused for people who are there, probably because it's their profession, and they would maybe even get work paying for that.
But that's really, really cheap compared to other conferences.
Yes,
though. It's still under $100.
Yeah, very much so.
So pay to go to scale, come to UbuCon for free. If you're there the first day, and I know, Chris, you weren't sure about this, but if you can get there the first day, we've got Carl Rochelle from System 76 giving our keynote.
Oh, cool.
And I have been teased by Ryan that he has some new announcements to make during that keynote.
Well, that is really neat. Carl is a super bright guy and really fascinating speaker, so that will be a really good keynote. Yeah, I think I'm going to try to make it. Maybe I'll see if I can't ping the Scale folks and maybe they can get us a coupon, because there are coupons out there floating around for Scale. And that would make
they just ended their special pricing. I think that was a couple days ago that they had that going for. And they still have student discounts, 50% off.
Oh, nice. Well, Mr. Hall, is there anything else you want to add about UbuCon before we chug along?
No, just want to reiterate, if you want to give a presentation there, we've got slots open. Go to the Scale, call for papers, and submit that with the UbuCon tag. We're also going to have a Snappy workshop happening there that second day. So if you want to learn how to make snaps and go through the walkthrough of that,
yes,
I'll be there hosting it also.
Nice. Let's make sure Ike attends. Ha! I kid. I poke.
I'll get to him. Don't worry.
I don't know if I believe that. Well, I think it's going to be a pretty good show. Yeah, and if you can make it to both, come say hi, because I'm going to try to make it down there. I might try to make it down there for the whole thing with Carl doing the keynote. So maybe I'll end up doing some live shows from down there too and doing a meetup. We'll see. I'll get my plans figured out. I kind of feel like this might be the year I fly down instead of drive down, so I can get down there, cover it, and get back up here quick, because I might have something coming up in the near future, which would be a much longer drive. And probably save the wear and tear on the vehicle for that. Hey, before we get into some seriously big feedback and some good updates and other things, and also big news for Cyanogen users, I wanted to give mention to a project that recently launched a refreshed website, and it was really producer Michael who threw it in my face, because I don't generally follow the Cinnamon desktop mod scene, I guess you could call it. But Cinnamon Spices, which is cinnamon-spices.linuxmint.com, has been refreshed and relaunched, making it easy to modify your Cinnamon desktop environment, with things like themes, applets, desklets, and of course, extensions. I don't really know if this is something that appeals to most of you out there, but I think it's worth giving the guys and gals working on this project a shout for the really nice work they've done to showcase some of the stuff. I mean, it really makes these themes, it really makes this stuff look good. So thank you to producer Michael for throwing that in my face. So if you are a Cinnamon desktop user, you might want to go check that out. I'll have a link to the Cinnamon Spices site in the show notes. Lineage OS, which was the continuation, I suppose, of the Cyanogen open source project, I guess the Cyanogen forked Lineage OS, we could say for now, have started surfacing. We actually have real legit builds now that will work on Nexus devices like the 6P and 5X. Now, if you're already running Cyanogen mod, there's an important note, so pay attention to this. You need to first install the experimental ROM, which has a big old ugly watermark on it, before you can start installing regular Lineage OS builds. Otherwise, Lineage OS is not going to work at all. You're also going to have to be prepared to get a new version of the G-apps, because that'll also require an update. But you can get experimental Lineage OS nightly builds now on a bunch of devices, but the ones that jumped out at me were the 6P and 5X. Is anybody in the Mumble room a Cyanogen user or even an alternative ROM user on Android? Anybody using different ROMs?
Yeah, I have it as base for Selfish OS.
No.
Okay, so let's. I think both Minnie and William, was that who I heard? Just let's go.
Someone else.
Oh, okay.
Me.
Oh, okay. Let's start. Okay, let's start with producer Michael, and then we'll go Minnie. So go ahead.
I used to use CyanogenMod before Cyanogen Company was created, but that was like my latest
Same.
phones. I haven't bothered.
Yeah, that's basically been my setup. Now, Minnie, you said you were using Cyanogen currently?
Yeah, we have it as base for Selfish OS for the ports for the Nexus 5.
Oh, nice.
So we have a port for with Cyanogen 11 and 12, and there is one user who's working on CM13 even now.
And will that eventually become Lineage?
I don't know. We will see. So now we are looking for CM13. We got the base, and we have some little struggles to go. But if that is working, why not go further?
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's good that the project's continuing. I don't feel good about the future of the ROM market. I feel like it's going to get more constricted than ever. I'm not saying it's dying. I don't want to be dramatic about it, but it doesn't seem like it's particularly good. Wimpy, are you still rocking Ubuntu Touch as your daily driver?
No.
Dun, dun, dun. Now, hold on. Now, this... We got to stop the show. We got to talk about this. What happened? Tell me what happened.
I got a Christmas present.
The holidays. What did you get? What did you get?
OnePlus 3T.
Oh, and it's now running Android? It's probably running Cyanogen of a type, isn't it?
Well, it runs Oxygen OS, which is their version of it, yes. Mm-hmm. But I've set things up a little bit differently this time, so I'm using the F-Droid store and almost none of the Google services.
Very nice. And how do you like it? Is it good compared to, what do you think compared to Ubuntu Touch? Are you kind of glad to be back? Do you miss some features? Give me a sense of that.
I miss the navigation of Ubuntu Touch. I think the way that the user interface is moved around in Ubuntu is light years ahead of anything else. It's similar, but different to Sailfish. So if you like Sailfish, there's some similarities, but I feel the Ubuntu interactions are more intuitive than Sailfish. Okay. Sailfish is kind of, you have to know that this thing does this thing, where with Ubuntu it's much more natural. It's curious. So I was obviously using things that were like wraps of web applications on Ubuntu Touch, and now I've come back to Android. I'm actually using a lot of those rather than native apps, because in many cases now the web application version of things is far better than the native app version. So, for example, Facebook is one example of that, and the old reader is another. Two things that one, Facebook is for staying in touch with my family, and the old reader is where I get all my news from.
I think Facebook is the perfect example. I feel like Facebook is safer as a web app than it is to have the Facebook app installed on Android, because you never really know what it's doing.
And also with the web app, you get access to messaging and all of the other stuff that is all separate apps on Android, as native apps. So, that's good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's a slight thing where if you use a browser to do that it tries to detect that you're using a browser, and it says, oh, you need to install the app. But if you use a web app wrapper, it'll break that and make it think that it's it's like a desktop thing, but it'll still show it as a mobile.
What a pain in the butt. Mr. Hall, I noticed that you said you kind of agreed that it looks like it might be a dim future for alternative ROMs. Did you want to expand on that at all? Oh, I think you might have gone away from
Sorry, me?
Yeah. I noticed you said you kind of agreed that it looks like it might be a dim future for alternative ROMs on Android. Did you want to expand on that a bit?
I don't think I agreed to that. I was typing in another window and accidentally hit the press the talk button.
So you think, okay.
I will second Martin, though. I've been on a Galaxy S7 for 5 months or so now, and I totally miss the navigation of Ubuntu phone.
Yeah, that was the Nokia stuff, right? Isn't that what that was powered by on the Ubuntu phone? Can't remember.
I think Mike was referring to the touch gestures, not the map navigation.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. The touch gestures, like multitasking.
Really? That's interesting. Really, honestly, guys. Really, honestly, because I got to tell you, one of my biggest concerns about Ubuntu Touch was that the gestures were sort of opaque. You didn't have any idea they were there, so it seemed like it'd be hard to internalize them. But that's not the case.
No, it only took like an hour to really get used to them, and within a week, you're so addicted to it that whenever you go back to something else, you instinctively try and do those gestures.
That's good to hear. But I guess I'm not convinced about Discovery, because you guys are kind of bad examples, because not only are you Canonical employees, but you're around other people using Ubuntu Touch, and you were there during the UI creation. So if you came into it cold, do you still have a sense that it would be discoverable and usable? It just seems so hard to find them.
I think so. I mean, the tutorial that runs on, first startup that explains what the 4 directions of movement are.
That's right.
Like 60 seconds to complete, and it basically introduces you to, it's a pull down, it's a pull up, and pulling in from the left and the right. Mm-hmm. And that's the extent of it. Completing the same tutorial on Sailfish, and for anyone that's got Sailfish yet, they can maybe back me up to prove I'm not making it up. Their tutorial takes about 5 minutes to complete.
Yeah.
And you can't skip through it. You have to, do all of the steps.
Yeah, there's some Android devices like that too.
Yeah, and I always feel lost in Sailfish when I want to swipe around. It feels like you're moving through one of these text dungeons. Go south by southeast, go west, go north.
I do not agree with you.
Fair enough.
I used an N9 Nokia N9 before, and the gestures were pretty much the same. And on Sailfish, you get used, as with Ubuntu Touch, you get used pretty quick. You use 10 minutes and you get used to it.
All right.
Yeah, I've just not. I always feel lost when I use. So I've got two Sailfish phones. I've got the original Yola phone and I've got the Intech Aquafish.
Yeah, okay. So
there's essentially just 3 gestures in Ubuntu phone.
Yeah.
And as soon as you master 3 gestures, then you've got it.
That does seem pretty reasonable, especially combined with the tutorial. All right, so let's cap off this conversation with the obligatory WebOS mention. Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead.
Okay, so I like WebOS.
Yeah,
I was a huge fan back in the day. Their gesture structure was very similar to how Ubuntu Touch works, except instead of from a side entrance, it was the bottom entrance. So you had the same kind of pull the launcher from the side. You had to pull the launcher from the bottom. You had the same swipe away things, except in a different direction. They're actually very similar. So someone who was a WebOS person would pretty much just jump right into Ubuntu Touch.
Well, that's encouraging. All right. Okay. Now I want to run it on in my 6P. That's official. That's official. Hey, let's stop talking about mobile. But before we go too much further, let's talk about Ting. This seems like a great time to mention it. Well, here's how you get started with Ting. You go to linux.ting.com. Linux.ting.com will get you $25 off a device or $25 in service credit. And think about this. $25 in service credit might pay for more than your first month because average Ting bill, $23 after all you're said and done. Here's how it works. No contract, no early termination fee, and you only pay for what you use. Minutes, messages, megabytes, you pay for what you use. Linux.ting.com. I love this system. I was just talking about in the pre-show how I have a couple of different MiFis, one on Ting's GSM network, one on Ting's CDMA network, and I use apps like OpenSignal to determine which one's going to be stronger in whichever area I'm taking the RV, and that's the MiFi I choose to use. It's $6 a month for the line, and if I don't use any data on that MiFi for a month, I'm paying $6. I can also just go in the control panel and turn it off. It's amazing. It's great for when you're traveling. It's great if you're an IT worker and you need to have connectivity at a moment's notice and you want to have 2 networks to choose from. I love this functionality. Of course, you can get a phone that's on either network too. It doesn't really, I'm talking about MiFis, but you could use it as a phone. I've got 3 phones on the Ting network, and I think it's a fantastic service. Usually, and if I'm not using my MiFis a bunch, which I use actually just lightly this weekend, and it's so fantastic because I think maybe, even with the holidays, the phone bill is going to be around $45 this month. 3 lines. When I'm at work and I'm at home, I'm using Wi-Fi all the time. And so I might be making a few extra calls for the holidays. On average, my phone bill's around $35 a month for all 3 lines. So it really averages out to be it's just an unbelievable price. You can get a little idea by going over to Ting's website and see kind of what it would cost for you. It's a really nice service because I also back it with fantastic customer service, an awesome control panel, an active blog full of good information, tons of devices, including ones you can just bring yourself, like one from the Play Store. Just hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Check them out. Linux.ting.com. And a big thank you to Ting for sponsoring the Unplugged program. Been a happy customer for a long time now. Linux.ting.com. This is an interesting post, and I just will touch on it really quickly. I don't think we have to have a lot of conversation about it. Excuse me. Chrome 56 is going to aggressively throttle background tabs. Hallelujah. This is just kind of all you really need to really know. But they're coming up with a timer and a budget system, and each tab is going to get a timer, and then it's going to get a budget, and the budget regenerates with a certain amount of activity, and all of this. They got a very, very Google sophisticated system, and they're talking about how it'll affect applications like Slack and Discord or BitMix or a Bitcoin trading site, and there could be some major effects. So you might want to go check it out if you are heavily dependent on one of those applications or a developer on one of those projects, because it's going to be big eventually. Chrome 56 is going to be a big deal, but it probably will help a lot of us with 2-core laptops on battery, and you're running Chrome. This is probably going to make life a lot better for you. Yeah, all that budget gets submitted to Google. That is an interesting thought, Altera. Wouldn't that be a fascinating? Because they do ask if you want to opt into like diagnostics and error reporting. I wonder if that time budget and things like that would be diagnostic data. Ooh, that sends chills down my spine.
I mean, for the first release, I'm sure it probably will be, right? Because it's not going to be a perfect system right away.
The amount of data that gives Googs about it makes Google Analytics look like child's play. That is a striking thought. Not just what sites you go to, but how you engage with them, how actively you engage with them, how long they sit idle on your website. They can tell you Go ahead.
We can see if it's going to be in Chromium and Chrome or just in Chrome, whether they're going to be collecting data or not.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see where that goes. Maybe none of that's going to happen too. So I want to talk about some feedback that I've gotten on Sunday's Linux Action Show, and I shouldn't really cross the streams like this, but I kind of want to take advantage of the mumble room, so this seems like the perfect opportunity. I've been considering building something that I'm going to just call, because we all understand what I say when I mean this, or what I mean when I say this. I'm just going to say it's like a bulletproof Linux installation. Something that isn't like a fun Linux installation, isn't like something I'm going to run on all my systems, but one of my workstations, maybe two, would be set up in a way that it's meant to be like a 5-year installation with absolute minimum failure. Maybe I would love to say even a tolerance of one failure a year. So that probably includes maybe a hard drive mirror. Maybe it also includes a UPS power. So there's some physical aspects of this too. But right now, what I wanted to focus on, because it's more germane to our show, would be the Linux configuration that would actually make this possible. And I've been toying with the idea of installing Solus as the base operating system and relying on the fine folks over at Solus to package up some of the core desktop applications that I want, like
no pressure, Ike.
Yeah,
none at all. No.
Like Telegram, like Google Chrome, those types of the general desktop environment. Hoping, and maybe I should wait till after Budgie 11, but hoping that there would be sort of a consistency and stability there, and then a lot of the more esoteric applications, many of which being web-based, like SAB, NZB, Couch Potato, Sonar, those would run in containers, like Docker containers, and other applications that maybe I would just sort of concoct one day. And maybe I would also supplement this with an Arch virtual machine that has access to the AUR or something for command line or maybe even graphical applications. So this has been something that I've been kicking around, but I think Mangas is how I'm going to say it. 1 day ago, in the Linux Action Show subreddit wrote, I have the feeling that containerization is not the solution for you, Chris Lass. I think that you have to accept the 3 M's that Noah pointed out in Lass. You go Ubuntu LTS, and you really should use something like snap packages. Also set up a clone and whatnot. But he argues that because predominantly what I'm going to want on this machine is a wide selection of desktop applications, I should probably go with an LTS/snap/flatpak approach to containerize and contain the specific applications, and use Ubuntu LTS for the base operating system, and just go something with much more generic. And maybe he says, yeah, I could go fancy with CFS or something like that. But and this has been sort of a common thread that's come in, is don't go as far as containerization. Just go Ubuntu LTS, or maybe it's Ubuntu Mate LTS or whatever it is. But you go with a tried and true Ubuntu install, and you skip the Docker containerization, and you go with snaps and flatpaks. And every time I look at this idea, which doesn't seem to be too insane, I kind of look at it and go, why does this not appeal to me? Because it feels like the path of least resistance. I could get a 1604 based install in 15 minutes. I could go get a few snap packages 10 minutes after that. And I may theoretically be pretty close to done at that point. I'm sure there's a few things I still have to work out. So it definitely has the appeal of being the path of less resistance. But what I feel like it's not really ready yet. Like, it seems like it's the easy path, but in reality, I love snap packages. I love everything getting snapped up, but some of the things I want don't get updated as frequently as I want because the package itself is not being maintained upstream. It's being maintained by a volunteer. Some applications I want may not be available. Things like Steam compatibility are still a big priority for me, and making Steam work really easily and not break is a big priority for me. And I don't really see like a flatpak snap solution to that specifically either. It feels like to me if I'm building a 5-year system today, in terms of application availability, Docker probably blows away just about every Linux distro's repo out there in terms of current modern applications being developed that I would want to try to talk about in reviews and whatnot. Docker is a massive distribution platform already. I would argue larger than snap packages. And so if you were building a system for today, it actually seems like Docker would be the one to use today. And then in 5 years, put your head up and go, okay, all right, so let's take a look around. What's gotten snapped up, what's gotten flat packed, and when it's time to rebuild, that would be the time to evaluate that. So I've been getting a lot of that feedback, and I've been reflecting on it. I actually think the snaps and flat packs would be more down the road. Should I pause here? Does anybody want to jump in the mum room before I continue on? Going once?
My question was, is there a possibility to use LXC, LXD containers for GUI applications?
I mean, I'm not really, I'm not really sold on any particular containerization or necessarily even containerization over virtualization or even a fancy cheroot, really, to be honest. I don't really have any strong leaning. My one preference towards Docker would be it's pretty simple to set up on Solus, and it's got a huge application availability on Docker Hub. And there's actually some subset of those applications up on Docker Hub that are being properly maintained by projects that really care. And you can suss that out eventually, and there's still enough of those that it's a pretty wide set of applications to pick from. So kind of leaning Docker that reason.
Okay.
So let's talk about, let's take all of this conversation and let's shift over to Solus. They announced this week that they're adopting flatpaks. They've also been an update recently about some big changes coming in Q1 to the desktop, including something called, what was it here? Do I have it here? Bulletproofing? We're going to talk about all of this. We're really going to let's talk about all this. So let's take a moment. If we're talking about containers, we're talking about virtualization, and you want to know more, go to Linux Academy, linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Sign up, take advantage of a 7-day free trial, support the show, and learn more about all of these technologies. They have really dedicated professionals that follow this stuff, like legit people in the industry that have come to Linux Academy now, are working with them, consulting with them. They have full-time instructors. I think this is where you get the knowledge directly from the people that know what's up. And I love it because the people behind the company started it because they're Linux enthusiasts. And somebody who runs their company because they were started my company because I'm a Linux enthusiast. Yeah, I really dig that. And it really kind of is the perfect essence behind what they're all going for. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. That's where you go. Find out about their self-paced, in-depth video courses on just about every Linux topic out there. They got labs that give you hands-on, real-world experience. You build the confidence you need when you go do the job, which I've learned makes all the difference. Instructor mentoring when you do need it, a community that's stacked full of Jupiter Broadcasting members, courses specifically for cert training if that's where you're going, and course schedulers for those of us that are cray-cray busy and you need to have something custom built out for you to match that schedule. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. They also have public profiles if you need to let management know what you've been doing. That's been really nice for me in the past when what I used to do is I had these little systems, these little papers that I would track my stuff in a spreadsheet, and I would hand it in because I would go to community colleges to get my course updating, to get my training updating that work thankfully paid for. But with a public profile like this, such a genius system. Makes it work, so it's just all automated. Plus, if you're talking to a client or looking for a gig, very useful there too. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Woo! Go there to support the show, sign up for a 7-day free trial, and a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Unplugged program. So I don't really know where to start, Ike, because I am so excited about all of this, but I feel like let's start with flatpaks, and then I'd like to talk about some of the other stuff you guys are doing sort of in Q1. So what the hell, flatpaks? What? This is huge because I thought we had this big discussion on this show about how you weren't really a big fan of snaps or flatpaks. You wanted to be in control of the software that gets bundled for your distro. What's changed?
In that respect, actually, nothing. So remember, most of the people are having this discussion based on universal apps. The problem that we have in Solus, as you've probably seen yourself, is we have a very, very weird mechanism for deploying third-party software like Google Chrome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it just doesn't work very well. I mean, it's flaky.
What is the big challenge there? You mentioned a couple times in your post the Google Chrome problem, solving the Chrome problem. The only thing from my experience, was I went to a third-party section, and it seemed like it took a significantly long time to install Chrome. I had the sense something was going on behind the scenes, but I don't really understand. What is the Chrome problem?
Okay, so, I mean, you're not allowed to distribute Chrome, full stop. Only Google can do that, which, that's fair enough. So the way that we get around that is behind the scenes, it's actually downloading the deb and repackaging it as an EO package, then installing that locally. But, I mean, to do things like that, there's things like exit compression involved and all this stuff, which is why it takes a horrifically long amount of... It's not viable, there's no update mechanism for it, so we had to reevaluate it, because at the end of the day, anyone's personal views aside, it's leading to a poor user experience. So one of the developments I saw recently in Flatpak, I say recently-ish, is it supports downloading extra files at installation time. Now, the first place I saw this was over on Endless. Had to dig around there, and I could install Chrome straight from the software center. So being such a problem for me, I was like, well, how the hell are they doing this? How are they pulling this off? So the more I dug into it, it turns out that they're making use of the same thing that I'm going to be making use of, and it's essentially still pulling the deb, but it's doing it in a way that's efficient, quick, supports updates, and is transparently integrated. And in the end, I put the poll up on Google+, but that itself wasn't the deciding factor. But it was definitely one of the things that enabled it as an option for me.
So the other thing that probably comes to most people's mind is why not say Snaps or AppImage or one of the other competitors?
AppImage, again, it's the same distribution problem, so it's immediately out. An AppImage contains a file system, which means it would contain Google Chrome, so... it's gotcha. Instantly out of the races. Mm-hmm. And then again, it's Snap versus
Snaps
Flatpak.
Snaps do have the ability to pull files down and sort of essentially work around that problem.
Right. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of hype and love around Snap, but if I'm going to integrate something into Solus, it's got to be done properly, it's got to be done fully. So we don't have AppArmor in Solus. Now, you can, you can run Snaps without AppArmor, but again,
then
to
you
do
don't
it
get
properly
and
exactly.
Or
so to do it fully and properly, you've got to enable AppArmor. Now, that's an obstacle in terms of integration. So there's a lazy aspect to it because it would be, there's a large integration challenge for something like Snap. But the main thing that actually won me over in the end, everything else aside, integration problems, distribution, all that side of it, was being engaged on a technical level consistently by the Flatpak camp. And every time I brought this up online, every time I've ranted about it, discussed it, bitched about it, whatever, that fact has always remained true. They've always engaged with me. Now, fair play to Snaps as well, because Michael Hull actually contacted me offline after on. And, I've got a lot of respect for that. But I was being engaged on a technical level consistently by the Flatpak team. And they've always answered my responses, and it's more aligned with what works in Solus. And for me, it's kind of what won in the end. It had to be on technical merit only. It couldn't be on the hype. It couldn't be around marketability. The universal apps part of it at this point in time is currently not interesting to me. I'm talking about distributing some third-party applications.
Now, does this also solve any problems around packaging Steam for Solus?
So what we're doing with Steam at the moment, we have this Steam runtime compatibility, if you like, within our repos. It works really well now, but give it a couple of years, something like that would eventually fall apart at the seams because, they're going to be using older, have an ABI problem so large, you wouldn't be able to solve it anymore. So while it works for now, it's not a long-term solution. We actually spoke about this on Late Night Linux last night. I know, plug. Anyway.
Attaboy!
So subtle. But yeah, it's kind of Solus only, which is kind of not fair. So what I've done is I proposed it upstream. I opened up a GitHub issue, and it'll basically like, here's the cards on the table. I would like to take everything we've learned about building a Steam runtime, because we're actually pretty good at that, and offer one in the form of a Flatpak runtime, which is optimized, which has all the things that we want. Then anyone with Flatpak would be able to use it on any distro, not just Solus. So it makes it a lot easier then for distributions to have Steam, because they're kind of and ahhing about the whole lib32 crap. It would be a lot easier for them. They'd only need to have like a 32-bit driver.
So this would be, though, kind of all back-end plumbing, right? If I'm a user of Solus, I would just basically hit an install button in the...
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like you don't want to complicate it. It's got to be natively
Would
integrated.
it mean, though, as a Solus user, I could run other Flatpaks that I found?
Yes. So the one thing I didn't want to do is say, like, this is only for third party and that's all you're going to use it for.
Yeah.
If we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly.
Yeah,
and that, again, that was the thing when we was looking at Snap. It would have been hard to integrate that properly into Solus. For a Flatpak, it's very, very simple for us to integrate.
Producer Michael, you had a question about sandboxing?
Yeah, sandboxing, containerization, whatever. The Flatpaks originally were doing it via Wayland. So how did they approach the issue? This, like, if they have it right now?
Sorry, I didn't quite get that.
I don't know if they're... I actually just saw a blog post about this. I think this is sort of in the works still, isn't it? I didn't read the post yet. I had tagged it for reading, but I haven't.
If one of the issues is AppArmor is not available to install in Solus, but the Flatpak is covering this issue for security. But last time I checked, they don't have a solution for that.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, they do have a sandboxing mechanism in place. It's called Bubble Wrap. And it effectively creates a kernel level. It's effectively a container, you know.
Okay.
To avoid, they don't call it a container because it has all the connotations of Docker and things like that. But effectively, it's like it's a kernel level namespace and container.
So
you do have the containerization, and then you have there's basically a dbus proxy that sits in the middle that filters all out the calls. You've got seccomp, which is involved as well, so it can actually filter system calls going through. So in terms of integrating into Solus, I had to update libseccomp, and I made one patch which has now been merged upstream already, and that was to actually support a stateless configuration in Solus. So it was very, very easy to integrate. For Google Chrome itself, we wouldn't be sandboxing it. Here's the difference. So we'd still be using the native file system stuff there. It's just effectively a way to distribute and update it. So the sandboxing for that part isn't important. But for future and applications that are being distributed as these things start to get more popular, obviously we do want that fully integrated.
That makes sense. So, how will I see this, and when will I see this as a Solus user? Am I going to be waiting for a while?
Oh, no. You can't do that, you. No, that wouldn't be fair at all. So at the moment, we are doing a very, very large stack upgrade. We're going from GNOME 3.20 to GNOME 3.22. You will see me ranting and raving about it on Google Plus at the moment. I'm not in a good mood with some parts of it, but anyway. So while we're doing that, we also try and bring up some of the reverse dependencies. So Flatpak has already gone in there at the moment.
Okay.
That's part of the next update series that will go into the main repos. But it's going to be a colossal update. Like when I got as far as packaging, I think it was Nautilus, which was the first GNOME app that I'd updated. There was already 200 updates to Solus by that time.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'll be nice. I'm going to issue some Delta updates as well. But yeah, so the next set of updates, that will all come through. Flatpak is already in the repos and enabled. Now we just need to plumb it into the software center to make it all work nicely.
So that's kind of huge. That's kind of a huge thing. And you talked about something else in a recent post talking about Budgie 11, and you talked about bulletproofing. I think the verbiage was like bulletproofing the upgrade process.
Yeah, bulletproof boot.
Bulletproof boot is what it is. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the name I gave it. So the kernel update mechanism in Solus isn't great. Effectively, you're having the carpet ripped out from under your feet every time you upgrade. Now, there's a variety of ways to do it in some different distributions, and that usually involves having a meta package, which will then depend on a new package that comes in, and then you end up with multiple parallel kernels installed. Mm-hmm. The way that I'm doing it, I'm actually adopting something that I developed at work, which is Clear Boot Manager from Clear Linux, which is an Intel project. What I'm doing is adapting that to actually support Solus fully and more importantly, be generic enough that it would work for other distributions. So the way that this effectively works is you take the control of the kernel away from the package manager. Now, that's probably going to sound a little bit weird. So if you upgrade a package on your disk, it takes away any files that are left there. The difference is, with this approach, you have this package. Once you upgrade, it leaves the old files on the disk. They are no longer within its domain. Then Clear Boot Manager is fired up. The first thing it does is make sure that the new your running kernel has to stay there. That's like rule 1. It has to stay there. You're not allowed to remove the running kernel. This is a very bad thing to do. It will then install the latest kernel and the last running kernel. So when it goes to install them, also make sure they're repaired, so they're fully present on the disk. If anything's happened to them, it will actually repair them and fully restore the EFI system partition.
How does it accomplish this?
Through the code that I wrote, basically.
Is it like pulling code down and patch? Like what's happening?
No. So like if you upgrade it now, like in Solus, you'll be automatically shipped to this new package. It's called Linux LTS, and that'll be on the 4.9 branch. So when you update, the old files stay there, and so do the new files. They're specifically namespaced, versioned with release. Everything is encoded in the name of these files. So when you upgrade, it automatically knows which one is the next new kernel, because we'll have a symlink, which is default LTS, shipped as part of the packaging. So it knows who the new guy is. When it looks at the uname output, that is also encoded to carry the version, release, and type information of the kernel. So it knows which one needs to stay, which one needs to be repaired, and which ones need to be garbage collected.
And so this is how it's able to, this is how the package manager is able to just not even worry about it, and it's able to
Exactly.
That's really
So the package manager comes along, so say we went from 4.9.4, it then deposits all the 4.9.5 files on there. The difference is now that default LTS link is changed from the old 4.9.4 to the 4.9.5 one. And it doesn't have to be a version update, it can just literally be like bumping a release to fix something. Your current kernel will stay on there. The one you booted before will stay on there because we run a systemd unit at boot. And once it's got past the multi-user target, it records that information to a file. So it knows that that kernel successfully boots. Anything that doesn't meet those parameters is then garbage collected from the disk, including the initial RAM disks, which are now shipped as part of the package instead of being generated at install time, which is risky. So everything is now pre-shipped, ready to go. So you're never going to have a situation where you upgrade and kernel modules go missing and things disappear and you can't roll back.
So does this Clear Boot Manager land in Solus as well? I mean, at the same time that Linux 4.9 does?
So I'm actually on the 4.9 now, but yeah, they will come together. So basically, you'll have one last derpy upgrade, which is going from the 4.8 stuff, because that part of it is unavoidable because it was broken to start with. Once that's happened, you'll be upgraded to the 4.9, and from then on, you can just keep upgrading. And if there is ever a problem, you can just roll back to the old kernel. Now, the difference between this approach and, the typical sudo update grub kind of crap, you have to record bits of those information around for it to keep working properly. So if you've ever had encrypted installs, you've got to keep hold of like the resume parameters, the lux UUID parameters, the root equals, all of that stuff. And it's even harder for UEFI. Clear Boot Manager is picking up all this information automatically and recording it. So it's entirely stateless. It can completely restore a boot partition for you. So I put a video up on my Google Plus if you want to go and have a look at it.
Okay.
I basically RF'd everything on my ESP, which is something you probably shouldn't do. But then just to kind of demonstrate the confidence in that, I ran the command and bam, my ESP was restored, including the bootloader itself, because it manages the updates to that as well.
I will have a link to Ike's G+ page in the show notes, as well as to the Clear Boot Manager. That's a pretty nice upgrade. That'll be that does sound like, if everything works as intended, that it should make that update process much more bulletproof. That's kind of what I'm going for. That's what I'm going for, Ike.
Yeah, I mean, it's been used in Clear Linux now for a long time. Obviously, here I'm not speaking on behalf of Intel while I'm here now. I'm speaking on behalf of Solus, but it's a project I work on at work. And we've been using it there for a long time, and it does work. It's, it's field proven, if you like. And the original thing that basically bugged me was dual booting on an EFI system partition. Nobody really does that nicely. I mean, if you look at some systems, you'll get like a /initRD0.image and things like this. Who does it belong to? Where's the domain ownership? And then you have these subfolders. It's kind of nasty. So I wanted to basically implement standards and have a way that things can cohabit peacefully on an ESP without conflicting. So the Solus kernel now is like a com.solus project, and then it'll have like the version and everything coded into the file names. So you don't have to worry about things conflicting or fighting over the ESP. So I'm also making it very agnostic. So if anyone else does want to integrate it into their projects, they're more than welcome to.
And so does this make it possible to, say, run multiple branches of the kernel? So say if I wanted to have...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the motivations, because in Solus there is a kernel package. It's just called kernel. Like, you're kind of limited on your choices there, which is kind of sucky, because we have to run the kernel that's going to be safe for everyone, but sometimes there's hardware enablement differences, or we need experience with that new branch of the kernel before it becomes the new kernel. So this one is becoming the Linux LTS kernel. So you'll upgrade, and that's what you're going to.
Okay.
That'll be handled automatically.
That's the default one, the LTS.
Yeah, just to make sure everyone's safe, you're going to go to the LTS branch, and then that's where you're going to be by default.
Are you tracking Greg KH? Is that where the LTS moniker comes from, or?
Yeah, basically. So that would be the 4.9 branch for now. And once 4.10 is stable, then we can start like a Linux mainline package to kind of, you know, have a bit of symmetry between us and kernel.org, just so you know where you stand.
I like that a lot. I think that's a good idea. Well, okay. Well, that's a hell of a lot of awesome stuff that's making me really want to continue to use Solus. So that's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are coming. We've just started up budgiedesktop.org as well. I did want to talk about a little bit about Budgie if we could. Yeah, I mean, you know yourself, Budgie 11's kind of achieved meme status by now.
Yeah.
You know, like, after Budgie 11, this thing will be fixed.
But it's actually 9 now. Now I'm nervous because I'm like, I feel like things are just getting stable for me, and then my desktop's going to get just pulled right out from underneath me. And
No. Budgie is going nowhere. I mean, you have my full assurances on that. So
I'm just worried about big changes. It sounds like 11's a pretty big rewrite.
Well, the thing is, I'm going to be explaining more of this in the blog post later. I don't want to spill the beans. Just
okay.
yet.
All right. I'll keep my eye out.
But it will be a significant blog post. But effectively, we're taking measures that will unlimit our creative freedom, which will make Budgie a lot better, because we've got some long-standing bugs that we just haven't been able to fix. So those will be coming, and Q1.
Oh boy.
It's big stuff, but
sounds like it.
All of this is basically focused on one singular topic. It's about giving users the experience they deserve. Right now with Budgie, we are not there. We are not there. There are some annoyances, some bugs that are there, and the users shouldn't have to put up with this shit. So that's what all of this quarter is about. It's getting everything in place so the users can actually have that experience that they deserve from their computer, that they bought that computer. They shouldn't have to suffer these stupid bugs. So we will have that up there, and it's going fully distro agnostic. Like, it's up on its own namespace on GitHub, has its own domain, it has its own blog. So it's going to be some people, are going to be how people are when they see something about new stuff, and this is how we do things. But believe me, it's for the best.
We'll say, I say
from the blog post,
keep an open mind, and we'll wait for updates. Maybe you come back and tell us a little bit about it, because I'm curious as heck. All right. Well, I want to also...
I've never installed GNU / Linux.
Hey, I'm doing a show. Excuse me. I wanted to also mention some big updates that are coming to our friends over at Ubuntu Mate, as well as Kali, which I am super, super excited about. So we should keep moving so we can make room for TechSnap. And, I would be amiss if I didn't mention DigitalOcean. That's the secret sauce. Guys, that's the secret sauce. It's a super simple, straightforward cloud hosting provider that'll get you up and going in no time. If you're a one-man team up to a multi-million-dollar company, DigitalOcean's going to work great for you, because it's super intuitive, it's super reliable, super fast. I'm trying to think of another super. Super SSDs? I'm losing it. I don't got any more supers, but it is a great service, and it deserves all of the supers I can come up with. They've paired an amazing user interface that really is it accomplishes it simple to use while also being very advanced and letting people that know what the heck they're doing just to go at it. Like, automatically attaching your SSH keys, spinning up multiple VMs from templates, snapshots and backups, but the best part is all of it's exposed by a very simple, straightforward, gotta love it API. And, in my day-to-day usage, I talk about the UI so much because I was born in the fire of a time when virtual machine management only ran under Windows, and it was the worst, slowest MMC UI knockoff you'd ever seen. So now, in 2017, to sit here and look at this DigitalOcean interface, it just blows me away. So that's what I always focus on. But the reality is their API is really where it's at. As a daily driver of DigitalOcean for spinning things up and down for our infrastructure all day long, up and down all day long, I'm using the API. I'm using bot commands that trigger the API, to be honest. That's how I'm doing it. And it makes it so easy to integrate DigitalOcean infrastructure that's in San Francisco for me and in New York. And it's just like one single bot command. And in the background, these systems spin up online, these sites go active, these streams turn up. It is so incredible. Making multiple systems is you can do it from a snapshot, but it is super simple. And the other thing that's really nice is not only can you transfer droplets to other folks, so say you're going to build something for a client or for a friend or a family member, et cetera, et cetera. It also is really great working with teams. For your personal use, say you want to do a Mumble server, a Minecraft server, an IRC server, a sync thing, BitTorrent sync, all of that. They have 40 gigabit E connections, SSDs for all of the machines and data centers all over the world. Check it out at DigitalOcean.com. Just do me a favor. When you sign up, apply our promo code DOUnplugged, DOUnplugged to your account. You get a $10 credit. You can try out that $5 rig 2 months for free. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code DOUnplugged. So there has been a massive leak, Edward Snowden-sized leak, about the progress on Ubuntu Mate. There's an insider. I'm not familiar with this person. I think his name is Martin. I'm not sure who he is, but Wimpy is here to help us make sense of all of this. So, Wimpy, there's some really nice things coming down the road. And there's also some stuff that we talked about previously on the show from Ike, Brisk in there. So where do you want to start with the update for the Mate project?
Okay. Well, let's start with Brisk. We've just heard from Ike. I don't know if you noticed, he's quite a clever chap, isn't he? Lots of technical detail there. That said, he does need help from an older, wiser gentleman with bitwise operators from time to time, but aside from that, he's a smart cookie. So let's start with Brisk, because there's some news there that I've not announced that dovetails with that. Ike released Brisk menu 0.3.0 yesterday evening, and that's being developed as an efficient menu for the Mate desktop. And we created a PPA for Ubuntu for that. So if you're running 16.10 or 17.04, you're able to get the 0.2.0 release. And that PPA is now up to date with the 0.3.0 release. So if you're already using that PPA, you'd have got your updates today. And there's a bunch of bug fixes for Brisk in there. And that's cooking along nicely. I've gone through Ike's issue tracker and sort of highlighted the bits that I'm interested in seeing. And Ubuntu Mate, we're in our second month now, Ike, where the crowdfunding from Ubuntu Mate, some of that money's being funneled into Solus so that Ike can work on Brisk for the Mate desktop as a whole, which is really cool to see. Some cross-distro collaboration.
Yes, and I also heard that Mr. Producer Michael there in the Mumble Room was involved in updating high DPI and low DPI for what icon themes, I think it was.
That's right. Yeah. So, Michael in the chat room here, producer Michael, he retouched all of the assets in not the icon theme, but the GTK theme itself. So things like sliders, switches, radio buttons, and all of that sort of thing. And all of the outlines for those and the shading, they've all been retouched so that there are two versions. There's a low DPI and a high DPI version available for those now.
Yes.
So that's all good stuff. And he was another funded contribution in the same way that the work from Daniel Foray at Elementary. He contacted me just before the Christmas holidays. And he was saying, would we be interested in adopting some of his updated folder icons and things of that nature in Ubuntu Mate? Because those of you that don't know, Daniel years ago used to work, I think it was on a contract basis, but worked with or for Ubuntu on the Humanity icon themes. So that all of those icons that you're using in Ubuntu originated from his work. And he's refined and improved those over time. And he was saying, did I want to adopt the new version of that? So he did a bunch of work, and we've adopted those icons. And then there are a few that looked a bit rough because they were the old style. And he's now touching up a few of the others there. So we've got a whole new icon theme for all of the common actions and folders and stuff like that. And that's all come from Daniel at Elementary. And again, funded through the Ubuntu Mate crowdfunding.
That is slick. That sounds like some really nice updates. It's great that the crowdfunding is making that possible too. I love it.
It's made quite a difference. You might remember me saying, I think it was a few months ago, we got sponsorship from Bytemart to cover all of our hosting and bandwidth now. And that took a few months to fully kick in all of the advantage of that, because although we moved to them as soon as they made that available to us, we'd got some longer term hosting agreements with some other providers that we've had to sort of be paying for. Well, that all ended at the end of December. So this January is the first month where we're completely free of any legacy hosting payments. And already for January, the amount of funding that Ubuntu Mate is paying out to other projects and independent open source developers is sitting around $2,500 of money going to other developers to work on either Mate or Ubuntu Mate related projects. Ooh. So if we're able to keep that up over the next 12 months, that will mean that we get good quality, consistent contributions coming into the projects that we care about. But some of those cross-distro collaborations, that's money going back into those projects that they can use to fund their own work. And for the part-time collaborators, some of them are students, and some of this money is meaning that they don't have to flip burgers at the weekend. They can actually work on open source and get a decent amount of money in return. So that's awesome. I'm really hoping that will continue to escalate over the next year.
So what I really want to talk about though is
I'm guessing
the Mate Desktop 2.0. I mean, you put 2.0 on there, and I want to know. I want to know more details.
Yeah, so internally within the Mate team, there's sort of 4 of us that make up the core team, and there's 2 of us that want to go with Mate 2.0, and the other 2 are like, no, let's call it 1.18. So I'm kind of forcing the agenda here by
oh, clever.
By putting it out there that it could be a Mate 2.0. And it might still be. We'll have to have some polite conversations and agree that this is what we're going to do. But the reason for this distinction, in my mind, is that with the next stable release, which at this point could be 2.0 or it could be 1.18, it's the first version which is you can only build against GTK3. All of the legacy GTK2 code has been removed from the entire project. So that's all gone now. And there's been some other incremental improvements there, but really I feel that 2.0 is worthy because GTK2 is gone. Yeah. And it would be nice to know that the 1 series was the one that you could build against GTK2, and the 2 series is the one that went to GTK3.
That's awesome.
And then we've had on our roadmap, this gentle progression to GTK3 has always been more so from some of the other distributions. They've got an eye on adopting Wayland. So another step towards Wayland is this current. So we have the development snapshots. They're currently 1.17. Those development snapshots now have support for libinput, which is a modern library for handling input devices, including, mice and trackpads and trackballs and touchscreens and what have you, which supports both Wayland and X11. So that's in there now. So we're looking for some testing and feedback on that. But that gives, if you've ever used libinput on, say, GNOME 3, which has had it for a little while now, you'll notice that the sensation of, especially on trackpads, you feel like your finger is really moving the mouse rather than there's sort of you're dragging your finger movement is disconnected from what you see on the screen. With libinput, those things are very sort of glued together, and you can feel that that relationship is very strong. So that's good, and it opens up some compatibility. So it improves things like disabling taps when you're typing and stuff like that is much better palm detection.
Oh yeah,
so that's great stuff.
Ooh,
and then
that also puts you closer to Wayland, right?
It does. And then with Fedora 25 going to Wayland by default, the Fedora maintainer for Mate, he's now had a series of bug reports where some people are installing pieces of Mate on top of Fedora 25 running GNOME 3, and then those applications don't work under Wayland. So this is things like Kaja, the file manager, I have Mate, the image viewer, the terminal, various other bits and pieces, the text editor and what have you. So we've now got this to the point where the applications will run as applications on top of Wayland now. That doesn't mean you can bring up the whole of the Mate desktop in a Wayland session. That's a little way off. But the individual applications, when they're running on Wayland, will now run. And one of them, and that's Pluma, the text editor, can run natively on top of Wayland. So, baby steps, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah, sounds like it.
The way this support's integrated, I'm hopeful that this will also mean that Mia will work as well. But I shall be testing that later in the year.
So Ryan Sipes in the chat room there is asking if you've heard any little birdies tweeting about perhaps lib input ending up in Unity and Ubuntu, because that seems like that'd be a nice feature upgrade for Ubuntu desktop too. Have you heard any discussions?
I may have done, but I'm foggy on this. So what I'll have to do, Ryan, I will check some things and get back to you on that. I think it's in Unity 8 already. I'm pretty sure about that. It's not in Unity 7, and I
wonder if one went digging around on Launchpad if you might just get the answer.
Yeah, well, I will need to go off and have a little look in the code repositories, but I'm not that I'm aware of. But that doesn't stand for anything because some of the people that are working on this are sort of disconnected from what I'm doing at the moment.
So for end users, what kind of new stuff is landing that we've just discussed is landing in the next release?
Everything we've just discussed is in the next release.
Wow.
It's already in the development snapshots.
You are crazy, sir. Remember how one of these releases you're just going to kind of back off and just have like a really boring release? Remember how that's going to happen?
This is that one, yeah. So what everything I've just discussed is what's happening in Mate itself, rather than Ubuntu Mate.
Oh wow.
So Ubuntu Mate is going to move to the next version of the Mate desktop.
That's
in
great.
This release. We've already uploaded Mate 1.17 development snapshots to the Zesty archive. So if you install a Zesty daily image for Ubuntu Mate now, you get all of this stuff I've just been talking about. If you download the alpha, which is coming out in a week or so, then you'll get all of this stuff. But in terms of what Ubuntu Mate is doing, all of that high level, headline grabbing stuff we've just spoken about is only part of it. There was a load of rough edges in Mate 1.16 because that was the one where we sort of really jumped to GTK 3 and it was available everywhere, although it's still a build time option for some of the components. And I've been going through the issue trackers on Launchpad and on GitHub for Mate and joining up all of this stuff and sponsoring the upstream Mate developers to fix all of the sort of the real serious paper cut issues with that transition to GTK3. So there's a lot of refinement going on in Mate in this release, and consequently that will filter into Ubuntu Mate. So it's just going to be boring and fixes is very true for Ubuntu Mate. We've got some shiny new artwork from Daniel. I really wanted to bring the Brisk menu into the Ubuntu archive now, but for those of you that don't know, Debian Stretch, what will be Debian 9, they're in final freeze in a few days. So consequently, they're not allowing new packages into Debian. And if they don't go to Debian, then they don't automatically sync to Ubuntu. And I prefer, when I'm working on Mate, to do everything in Debian. So these packages Brisk has been uploaded to Debian. It's in the new queue and it won't get out of the new queue until Debian 9 is released. So maybe I'll upload it just as an Ubuntu version at some point, but I just want to see what happens. See, does Debian 9 materialize in this cycle, in this window? But I've done a bit of work with Brisk so that you can have the Brisk menu with its search capability, and you can still have the places and system menu along it. So instead of applications, places and system, you can now have the Brisk menu and you get menu, places and system. So you still have the 3-tiered menu, you still have places and system as you used to. Brisk is very much like the applications menu as was, but has fast search and some additional session management capabilities in there. So I'm thinking Brisk might become the default, if not in this release, then the next release, sitting alongside the traditional 3-tier menu.
I think did I hear you mention? I think in the post you said Alpha 2 is scheduled for release in like 3 days. So if people want to start playing,
it's very soon. Yeah, I forget exactly, but it's this week maybe this week. There's a couple of releases coming up, and I can't remember which way round they are.
You got a lot going on, don't you?
We've got the 1604.2 release coming up on February the something or other, and we've got the Alpha 2 of 1704 coming up as well. So it's all releases at the moment.
Yeah, boy, I'm sure that's not a stressful time at all. That seems very low key. Sounds all very low key.
All good fun.
You're a good sport, Wimpy. You're a good sport. All right, so before we get out of here, I just wanted to give a mention to Kali Linux, who celebrates their 10th anniversary this year, and they have announced today a new Kali Linux Certified Professional course, which will debut at Black Hat 2017. The KLCP is the first and only official certification program that validates one's proficiency with Kali Linux, which I think is interesting, perhaps if you're in the penetration testing business. I used Kali when I did that. And the Kali Linux also announced that there will be, on June 5th, a Kali Linux Revealed Mastering the Penetration Testing Distribution, the first official book on the Kali Linux platform. And keeping in Kali Linux spirit, they're also going to make the online version free for download, so you can get it if you want for free. That actually is going to be also a big refresh in the documentation area too. So you combine that with the book, documentation, and a certification. It's kind of big movements for Kali. That's kind of a big deal. And also I should say, Qt 5.8 was released yesterday. That's the news right there. Oh yeah, okay, all right. We're gonna call it there. We got to go because we got to make room for the new TechSnet program, which if you ever want to tune in live, is on Tuesdays now. But yeah, I just thought that was really cool to mention for Kali. Mumble Room, you guys, thank you very much for making it. It was great having you here. I think we got lots of good info on what everybody's working on. The planes are overhead now, flying the banners to celebrate our excellent job. I think that means job well done when they launch the planes. That means we did a good job. So we can get out of here. We'll end on a high note. Thank you for tuning in this week. We miss you, Wes. I'm sending love to Wes right now. He misses you too. So don't worry. If you miss Wes, he'll be back next week. If you'd like to join us live next week, perhaps participate in our Mumble Room, anyone is welcome. We just like to do a mic check. Go to jblive.tv, sign into our chat room, bang mumble, get the information. Win? Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get that converted to your local time zone. Oh, feedback and stories, linuxactionshow.reddit.com. I'm on Twitter at ChrisLAS, the network at Jupiter Signal. Thanks for being here. We'll see you right back here next Tuesday. That brings us to the end. We have a couple of minutes to pick our title, so everybody in the chat room, go to JB Titles that is watching live. Guys, thanks so much. There was tons of good info from everybody in there. Also, thanks to Mr. Hall, who had to move on because he had another call to jump on, but he had to jump too. So that was good stuff. Now, Ike, I had a question. Mm-hmm. You said something in there about a new icon theme. Is this a fork of Mocha, or what is that?
Nope. You got the author right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so what we've deliberately done, and this is going to sound like me being a complete knob, but we've deliberately done it on a private Git for now because it's something that's going to be important to the visual identity of Solus. Now, it might sound like a minor thing, but Solus was the first one to ship with Arc theme. You know, we've worked with Horst, the author of Arc, and getting Budgie to look good and be integrated. It was effectively the official Solus theme. everywhere you look now, I see that bastard thing.
Oh yeah, it's good looking.
So what we're doing is we're doing it behind closed doors first. I can't speak today. Doing it behind closed doors first, just because I don't want to see it turn up in the AUR tomorrow and already been warned by half the country before we even get the release of Solus out. But it will be coming in time, and it's going to be nice, and it'll help, define the look of Solus that little bit more.
So, I was just pinged during the show that there is an event that I've been wanting to go to for a few years. It's happening in my backyard during Scale. Oh man, and I really want to go to this. Plus, there's something else that's happening with some friends on that weekend, and now I'm considering maybe seeing if I can get. I think Noah would go regardless, but. Now I'm wondering if I really need to go. In the show I said I was going to go to Scale, and now by the end of the show I'm like,
Noah's going to be there. I'm forcing him to go.
Yeah, I think he'd be regardless. So we get coverage. So I don't know. The question is do I? Because it's not the thing. It's a hot air balloon event. It's this massive, huge hot air balloon event in a town that looks like it's from 1805. It's like this western town, like wooden sidewalks, dirt roads. It's a really cool little place, and they have an RV park that is within walking distance, and you take a wooden stairway down into the town, and they're going to have this massive hot air balloon event. And it would be so cool to go. I've always wanted to go, and it's only like 2 2.5 hours away from where I live.
We're normally quite boring.
I like hot air balloons. And I like going to that town, too, though. So I don't know.
So do I, but I live in a city that has a big one every summer, and it gets a bit boring.
I bet.
Towards the end.
I bet. I would only go for like one day. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do now. It's always so hard. Scale comes at the worst time possible.
I actually don't like that they moved it up this year, so it's closer to LFNW itself.
Yeah, I wish it was.
It should still be in January like it was, because it would have been happening, this past weekend.
I wish it was happening actually like later in the year even.
That would be fine. Yeah. Like November or something. Well, that might be a little too late.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range might be not bad, though. October?
Like August,
yeah, October
would
be good.
Yeah. August might be a little hot.
August is bad because there's a lot of security conferences, honestly. Like,
if
I'm going to DEF CON, I don't want to then go right to Scale.
Yeah. Although I wonder if they nosed it up to something like that, if they could get some more attendance. Although they get plenty of attendance.
Scale timber.
Scale timber.
Wimpy, do you mind if I ask did you consider going and why you decided not to go? Just because I'm considering if I should go or not.
Well, I was either going to go under my own steam or go with work, and there are people from work going. I can't afford to go to Scale and Linux Fest Northwest. And it's a bit awkward timing for Scale. So unless I was going with work, I decided I'm not going to go individually.
That's the thing with Noah going. It's not like mandatory that I go. So I don't know. I got to think about it some more. I wish I hadn't said I was going in the show, because literally during the last half of the show, I got the message. And there's also we have a close friend who has a concert once a year, and we've missed the concert because of Scale, and so like 6 months ago, she's like, well, guess what? We moved the date of the concert. Well, guess what? They moved it to the weekend of Scale. So,
March 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, guys.
See, what you could do, Chris, you see, is you could do this. You could save your money, not go to Scale, and you could come to UbuCon Paris in November.
Whoa. That would be an amazing goal.